Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we will discuss the seminal High Court case of Chwee Kin Keong and Digiland Mall Pte Ltd, which deals with the doctrine of mistake under contract law. Digiland Mall Pte Ltd, the Singapore-based IT products retailer, listed a Hewlett-Packard laser printer on its website at the incorrect price of $66 instead of the actual price of $3,854 due to an employee's error. The plaintiffs, a group of individuals, noticed this extraordinary low price and placed orders for a large number of printers, intending to benefit from what they realized was a pricing error. The error occurred when an employee of Digiland International Limited, which is a related company, was working on a training template and mistakenly altered the price of the printer on both the Digiland Mall and the Hewlett-Packard websites. The mistake was not discovered by Digiland Mall until after numerous orders had been placed, including those of the plaintiffs. Once the error was identified, Digiland Mall informed the plaintiffs that it could not fulfill the orders placed at the erroneous price, leading the plaintiffs to initiate the lawsuit, claiming damages for breach of contract. The plaintiffs argued that the orders were validly placed and confirmed, and therefore Digiland Mall was legally obligated to honor the contracts. The Court of Appeal had to resolve several key issues. Number one, unilateral mistake. The Court of Appeal had to decide whether the pricing error constituted a unilateral mistake that would render the contracts void under common law. Number two, the Court of Appeal had to determine the knowledge of the mistake, whether the plaintiffs had actual or constructive knowledge of the mistake, and if so, whether such knowledge would invalidate the contracts. Number three, equitable relief. The Court of Appeal had to decide whether, even if the contracts were not void at common law, equity would intervene to set aside the contracts due to the plaintiff's behavior in taking advantage of the error. Four, costs. Whether the trial judge award of costs to Digiland Mall was appropriate given the circumstances of the case. The plaintiffs claimed that they had placed valid orders for the printers based on the terms displayed on the website, and that Digiland Mall's automated system had confirmed their transactions, forming binding contracts. They argued that they had no actual knowledge of the pricing mistake at the time of placing the orders, and that any reasonable purchaser could have assumed it was a legitimate promotion or sale, not a mistake. The plaintiffs contended that the trial judge erred in finding that they had constructive knowledge of the mistake and in ruling that the contracts were void. Digiland Mall argued that the pricing error was an obvious mistake and that the plaintiffs were aware or should have been aware of the error when they placed their orders, particularly given the extraordinary difference between the listed price and the actual market price. Digiland Mall contended that the contracts were void due to the unilateral mistake because the plaintiffs had constructive knowledge of the error and acted in bad faith by attempting to take advantage of the situation. Digiland Mall also submitted that even if the contracts were not void, equity should intervene to set them aside due to the plaintiff's unconscionable conduct in exploiting the error. The Court of Appeal dismissed the plaintiff's appeal and affirmed that the contracts were void under the common law doctrine of unilateral mistake. It was established that the plaintiffs had at least constructive knowledge, if not actual knowledge, of the pricing error. The Court of Appeal found that a reasonable person in the plaintiff's position would have realized that the price of $66 for a printer, normally valued at $3,854, was an error. The plaintiffs, knowing this, placed large orders for hundreds of printers with the intent of profiting from the error. The court emphasized that a party who is aware of the other party's mistake cannot enforce a contract that was entered into under such circumstances. In this case, the plaintiffs were found to have engaged in sharp practices, deliberately taking advantage of the pricing error. So even though the plaintiffs argued they had no actual knowledge of the mistake, the Court of Appeal inferred from the surrounding circumstances and communications between the plaintiffs that they must have known about the error. The court also held that even if the contracts were not void at common law, equity would have intervened to set aside the contracts. The plaintiff's conduct in attempting to exploit the mistake was found to be unconscionable. The court noted that constructive knowledge, combined with evidence of sharp practices, is sufficient to invoke equity's jurisdiction to set aside the contract. For example, one of the plaintiffs had commented during his online chat with a friend that the pricing was likely an error and saw it as an opportunity to make a quick profit. This showed that the plaintiffs were aware that the price was too good to be true and that they were attempting to exploit the error. To conclude, the Court of Appeal's decision is a significant case in Singapore contract law, particularly regarding the doctrine of unilateral mistake. It underscores the principle that a contract may be void if one party is aware or ought to be aware of a fundamental mistake made by the other party. It also illustrates the role of equity in cases where one party seeks to take unfair advantage of another's mistake, even if there is no fraudulent intent. The plaintiff's attempt to capitalize on Digiland Mall's pricing error was deemed to be unconscionable, and the contracts were set aside accordingly. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.